You're standing on the first tee. The group behind you is watching. You swing, and the ball sails right, straight into the trees. Again, same slice, same story. And a little voice tells you it's your swing. But what if it isn't? What if it's the ball in your hand right now? Here's what I found after months of digging. The golf ball most high handicappers are told to buy is quietly making their slice worse and stealing distance they already paid for, and the ball that fixes it costs less. This used to be common knowledge among club makers. Then it got buried. I'm going to hand you the 5 most forgiving golf balls for 2026. But the real prize is a forgotten truth I trace back to a patent filed on April 3, 1900. Stay with me, because the last ball on this list broke everything I thought I knew, and it works for the exact swing you have today. I remember the moment this started. I was standing in a musty pro shop in the winter of 2022, watching an old fitter pick up a sleeve of premium balls, shake his head, and quietly put them back on the rack. He handed me something cheaper instead. I didn't understand why. So I started pulling the thread. Let me tell you what I uncovered, because it changed how I think about every shot I hit. The first thing that stopped me cold was a number: compression. You've seen it printed on the box, and you probably ignored it, like I did for years. But that single number is the whole mystery, and almost nobody explains it to you honestly. Compression measures how much a golf ball squishes when your club strikes it. A high compression ball, somewhere around 90 to 100, is firm. It barely gives. A low compression ball, down around 35 to 50, deforms far more on contact. Now here's the part that took me weeks to accept. To get the full energy out of a firm, high compression ball, you need serious club head speed. We're talking a driver swing over 105 miles per hour. Tour professionals, long drive competitors. So I measured my own swing speed, 92 miles per hour. Then I looked at the numbers researchers have published for average recreational golfers, and most men swing the driver between 80 and 95 miles per hour. Most women swing between 60 and 75. Not one of those speeds is fast enough to properly compress a tour ball. Think about what that means. If you swing at 85 miles per hour and you play a firm 90 compression tour ball, you are physically incapable of squeezing the energy out of it. You leave distance on the table on every single swing. You bought the Ferrari and you're pushing it uphill by hand. I found golfers saying exactly this in forum after forum. One man wrote that he switched from a premium tour ball to a soft low compression ball and gained 12 yards off the tee overnight, and he was furious because he'd spent years and hundreds of dollars playing the wrong ball. He said, and I wrote this down, "I wish someone had told me this 20 years ago." That's the clue that hooked me, because it raised a bigger question. If low compression balls are longer and straighter for normal swing speeds, why is every advertisement, every tour broadcast, every glossy display pushing you toward the firm, expensive ones? Somebody wanted you looking the wrong direction. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me show you the first ball, because it's the one that proved the whole theory to me. The first ball on my list is the Callaway Supersoft. And I want you to understand why I put it first, because it isn't an accident. The Supersoft carries a compression rating right around 38. That is genuinely one of the softest balls you can legally play. When I first squeezed one, I honestly thought it felt too soft to be any good. That was my skepticism talking, the same skepticism you probably have right now. So I tested it against the firm premium ball I'd been loyal to for years. Here's what happened on slow swings. The soft core compressed fully, launched high, and flew straighter. The reason is something called sidespin. A slice or a hook is just excess sidespin bending the ball offline. A softer, lower spinning ball simply cannot curve as violently. It doesn't have the spin to bend that hard. So my slice, the one I'd blamed on my swing for a decade, shrank by yards. Callaway builds the Supersoft with what they call a high-speed soft core and a cover material designed to reduce spin off the driver while still grabbing a little on the greens. For a golfer swinging under 95 miles per hour, that combination is close to ideal. and the price sits far below the tour balls, usually around $22 to $25 a dozen, sometimes less on sale. So one clue clicked into place. The softest, cheapest ball on the rack outperformed my expensive one for my actual swing. That should have been the end of the story. But it wasn't. Because when I asked why the softball worked, the answer pointed backward in time to a discovery made over 100 years ago that we somehow forgot. And that discovery is where this gets strange. Let me take you back to April 3rd, 1900. On that day, a patent was granted to a man named Coburn Haskell from Cleveland, Ohio. Patent number 622,834. Haskell wasn't even a golf manufacturer. The story goes that he was waiting on a friend at a rubber company, got bored, and started winding rubber thread around a small core. He bounced it. It nearly hit the ceiling. Before Haskell, golfers played the gutta percha ball, the gutty, a solid lump of hardened tree sap. It was firm, unforgiving, and it punished anyone without a powerful swing. Only strong players with fast hands could make it fly. Sound familiar? Haskell's rubber-wound ball changed everything. It was softer, it compressed, and suddenly the average golfer, the weekend player, could get the ball airborne and send it farther than the strongest man could hit a gutty. Distance became available to ordinary people. The game opened up. I sat with that for a long time, because the entire history of the golf ball, from 1900 forward, was a march toward making the ball more forgiving for normal humans. Softer cores, better launch, less punishment for imperfect contact. That was the whole point. So how on earth did we end up in a world where the average golfer is talked into playing the firmest, least forgiving ball on the shelf? Somewhere between Haskell's rubber core and today, the message got flipped upside down. And I was determined to find out where. But first, the second ball, because it carries the next clue. The second ball is the Srixon Soft Feel. I'll be honest. This is the ball that quietly won over the old fitter I mentioned, the one in that cold pro shop. When I finally called around and started asking club fitters what they actually put in the hands of struggling golfers, the Srixon Soft Feel came up again and again. Its compression sits around 60, a touch firmer than the Supersoft, and that matters. Srixon designed it with something they call an energetic gradient growth core. Strip away the marketing language and it means the core is soft in the very center and gradually gets firmer toward the outside. On a slow, smooth swing, you engage the soft center so you get low spin and straight distance. On a faster swing, you reach the firmer outer layers so you don't lose control. What that gives a high handicapper is a rare thing. A ball that's forgiving off the tee but still stops reasonably well on the green. The outer cover, a thin ionomer skin with a huge number of dimples, over 300, helps it hold its line in the wind. It usually runs around $22 to $26 a dozen. Here's the clue hidden inside this ball. Srixon publishes its data, and in their testing, and in independent testing I dug through, the Soft Feel produced more total distance for slow and medium swing speeds than balls costing twice as much. More distance for less money. For your swing, that directly contradicts everything the premium marketing tells you. And the deeper I dug, the more I realized this wasn't one company being generous. This was a pattern the whole industry knew about and quietly worked around. Somebody was benefiting from you believing that more expensive automatically meant more forgiving. That belief was costing regular golfers real money, year after year. And when I found out how much, I actually got angry. Let me show you why. Let me put a number on what your ignorance has been costing you, because it's bigger than you think. Say you play the wrong ball, a firm tour ball you can't compress. You lose, conservatively, 10 yards of carry off the tee. You lose accuracy, so you find the rough or the trees more often. Every ball you lose in the water or the woods is around $4 gone if you're playing premium. A golfer who loses a sleeve of premium balls in a round, 3 balls, that's $12 in a single afternoon. Now stretch that across a season, 30 rounds a year. Even a modest loss of 2 premium balls per round is around $8 a round, $240 a year, just in drowned and lost golf balls. Play for 10 years and you've handed over roughly $2,400, and that's before you count the extra strokes, the ruined scores, the rounds where you walked off the 18th feeling like the game was rigged against you. And here's the twist that turned my stomach. If a cheaper, softer, more forgiving ball keeps you in the fairway, you lose fewer balls, so the cheaper ball is cheaper twice. Once at the register, and again all season long because you're not feeding the woods. So somebody profited handsomely from you reaching for the firm, expensive box. Every time a broadcast showed a tour professional winning a major with a firm, high-spin ball, you were nudged toward buying the same one, even though your swing speed makes that ball actively worse for you. That wasn't an accident, that was the plan. Professionals get paid to play those balls. You pay to play them. But I promised you the trail, not just the outrage. So let me show you the third ball, because it's the one that made me realize forgiveness isn't only about compression. The third ball is the Bridgestone E12 Contact. Now this one is fascinating because Bridgestone attacked forgiveness from a completely different angle, and it's an angle almost nobody talks about. Contact, specifically the contact between the club face and the ball at the moment of impact. Most of us have contact that's, let's be kind, inconsistent. We catch it thin, we catch it fat, we hit it off the toe. Bridgestone's engineers studied this and did something clever. They covered the E12 in what they call contact force dimples, little raised flat areas inside each dimple. The idea is to increase the surface contact between the ball and the club face by a significant margin. They claim around 38% more contact area, which improves energy transfer even on mishits. Read that again, even on mishits. That is the definition of forgiveness. A ball designed to help you when you don't strike it perfectly, which for most of us is most of the time. The E12 Contact runs a mid-compression, launches high, flies straight, and costs around $25 to $30 a dozen. Bridgestone, by the way, is not some small player. They're one of the largest rubber companies on earth, and they run an enormous ball fitting program. They've published that they fit hundreds of thousands of golfers, and their data consistently shows most amateurs are playing a ball that's too firm and too high spinning for their swing. There it was again, the same finding from a completely different company using completely different technology. The whole industry's own research quietly agreed. Amateurs need forgiveness, and they've been sold the opposite. So the clue clicked. Forgiveness isn't just soft compression. It's also smart contact engineering that rescues bad swings. But that raised the question that kept me up at night. If the companies themselves know this, and their own fitting data proves it, why is the truth so hard for the average golfer to find? Who buried it? I finally traced the answer, and I'll give it to you. But first I need to speak directly to the person watching this thinking none of it applies to them. Maybe you're sitting there thinking this is all fine for someone with a smooth swing, or extra money for fittings, or a home course to practice on. Maybe you think your slice is too far gone, or you only play a few times a year, or your swing is too slow for any of this to matter. I want to stop and talk to you specifically because you are exactly the person this helps the most. Here's something you can do this weekend with a ball you probably already have in your bag that costs you nothing. It's the squeeze and the drop test, and an old club fitter taught it to me when I said I couldn't afford a launch monitor. Take any golf ball, squeeze it hard between your thumb and finger. If it barely gives, it's a firm high compression ball, and if your swing is slower than about 95 miles per hour, that's likely the wrong ball for you. Now here's the swing part. Go to a field or a range and hit 10 shots with your current firm ball. Then hit 10 with a soft, low compression ball like the Supersoft. Watch the ball flight, not the number on a screen. Watch how much it curves. For almost everyone with a moderate swing, the softer ball curves less and rolls out more. You'll see your slice shrink in front of your own eyes. No fitting fee, no fancy equipment, just 2 sleeves and an honest afternoon. And if you only play a handful of times a year, this matters more for you, not less, and honestly, everything I just laid out about compression, spin, and forgiveness goes far deeper than one video can hold. I put the full system together in a series of digital books, First Wins, Sharp Habits, and the full system, that walk through exactly how to recover practical knowledge like this across every part of your game and your spending. The kind of knowledge that used to get handed across a shop counter for free. You'll find the details in the description below. But let's get back to the trail, because the fourth ball is where the money question finally gets sharp. The fourth ball is the Wilson Duo Soft. Wilson has a history most golfers have completely forgotten. This is a company that has been making golf equipment since the 1914s, and at one point Wilson clubs and balls won more major championships than any other brand in the game. They're not a boutique newcomer, they're one of the oldest names in golf, and they've spent decades quietly building equipment for regular players rather than chasing tour glory. The Duo Soft has, at various points, been marketed as one of the softest golf balls in the world, with a compression rating that has dipped as low as the high 20s and low 30s depending on the model year. That is extraordinarily soft. For a slow to moderate swing, that softness means the ball launches easily, spins less off the driver, and flies straighter with far less effort. But here's what makes Wilson the key witness in this whole investigation. Wilson ran a now legendary experiment. They took a group of everyday amateur golfers who had no idea what ball they were hitting, a true blind test. They had these golfers play premium tour balls and Wilson's own value balls without knowing which was which. And the results embarrassed the entire premium pricing model. The amateurs, on average, scored just as well, and in some measures better, with the far cheaper ball. Because for a real amateur swing, the premium ball's advantages simply don't show up. Those advantages require professional-level speed and precision to even access. The Duo Soft usually sits around $20 to $22 a dozen. Sometimes you'll find it under $20 on sale, so the clue snapped fully into focus. An amateur, blind, could not tell the expensive ball was helping, because for their swing, it wasn't. The premium was in your head, not in your scorecard. Which means the entire reason you've been overpaying was a story someone told you, not a fact you could feel. And that finally led me to the villain at the center of this whole trail. Because a story that convincing doesn't appear by accident. Somebody wrote it. Let me tell you who, and then I'll give you the fifth ball, the one that broke everything. Here's what I finally pieced together after months of digging through old catalogs, ad archives, and the timeline of how golf balls were sold. For most of the 20th century, golf balls were sold on forgiveness and value. The whole marketing message, going right back to Haskell's rubber core, was, "This ball helps the ordinary player hit it farther and straighter." That was the pitch. Help the everyman. Then, in the late 1990s and early 2000s, something shifted. A new kind of ball arrived, the multi-layer urethane-covered tour ball, and one company built an empire on it by tying it to professional players. The marketing message flipped. Suddenly the pitch wasn't, "Play this because it forgives your mistakes." The pitch became, "Play what the professionals play. Play the best ball. Feel is everything. Spin is everything." And the price climbed and climbed until a dozen premium balls crossed $50. Here's the sleight of hand. Everything that makes a tour ball special, the high spin, the firm feel, the workability, only becomes an advantage at professional swing speeds and skill levels. In the hands of an amateur, those same features turn into liabilities. High spin turns your slice into a bigger slice. Firm compression steals distance from a slower swing. You were sold the professional strengths, which are your weaknesses. The trail went cold for the average golfer because the forgiving value message got drowned out. It didn't have a superstar endorsement. It didn't have the glamorous television ad. The knowledge that Haskell proved in 1900, that softer is more forgiving for normal humans, was still true, still sitting right there in the company's own fitting data, but it stopped being the story anyone told you. It was buried under a mountain of aspirational marketing, because aspiration sells for $50 and forgiveness sells for $20. That's the villain, not one company. A shift in the story, from serving the everyday golfer to flattering the fantasy of being a professional, and you paid for the fantasy on every trip to the golf shop. Now, the fifth ball, And the secret finale I promised you at the very start, the thing that broke everything I thought I knew. The fifth ball is the Titleist True Feel. And I need you to sit with the fact that it comes from Titleist, because that name is the exact company most associated with the $50 premium tour ball. Even they make a soft, forgiving, low-compression ball for the rest of us, priced far below their flagship. The True Feel runs around $22 to $27 a dozen, with a soft, low-compression core, and it is consistently ranked among the best forgiving balls for high handicappers year after year. Titleist knows exactly who needs forgiveness. They build the ball. They just don't put it on the television ad. But here's the secret finale. The thing I found buried at the very bottom of this trail that changed how I buy golf balls forever. When I was digging through how balls are actually manufactured, I found a detail about something called X-out balls and refurbished balls, and it stopped me dead. An X-out ball is a ball that came off the exact same production line as a premium ball, from the exact same molds, with the exact same core and cover, but it had a tiny cosmetic flaw. A smudge in the paint, a logo that printed slightly off-center, a dimple that looked imperfect, nothing that affects how it flies. The company simply cannot sell it under the pristine brand name, so they stamp it with X's or sell it plain at a fraction of the price. I'm talking premium construction balls for a third, sometimes a quarter, of the retail cost. This is not a modern loophole. This practice goes back generations, when thrifty golfers knew to ask the pro shop for the box of blems under the counter. That knowledge was common. Your grandfather probably knew it, and then it quietly disappeared from the conversation, because a golfer buying flawless flying balls for $8 a dozen is a golfer not paying $50. So here is exactly what you do this weekend. First, pick the forgiving ball that matches your swing from these 5. And if you swing under 95 miles per hour, lean soft, lean low compression. Second, before you ever pay full retail, search specifically for the X-out or overrun or blemished version of a soft forgiving ball, and search for reputable refurbished balls, which are real lost balls cleaned and regraded. You can play tour-quality construction for the price of a fast food meal. And third, the piece almost nobody uses. Nearly every major ball maker, Bridgestone and Titleist and others, offers a free ball fitting, online or in person, where they recommend the right ball for your speed at no charge. It was free the whole time. The fitting your grandfather got for free at the pro shop counter never actually went away. It just stopped being advertised, because a fitted golfer buys the $20 ball that's right for them instead of the $50 ball someone wanted them to want. The knowledge existed. Haskell proved it in 1900. The company's own labs confirmed it decade after decade. Wilson's blind test exposed it. And a handful of honest fitters, like that old man in the cold pro shop who put the premium box back on the rack and handed me something better, kept it alive. Now you have it too. Here's what I keep coming back to, standing on that first tee in my mind. I spent years believing my game was broken, when really I'd just been handed the wrong tool and told it was the best one. Getting that truth back felt like someone returned something that had been quietly taken from me. And it was never about golf balls. It was about being sold my own fantasy at a markup, while the honest answer sat on the bottom shelf for $20. If you're the kind of person who suspects that a lot of useful, ordinary knowledge got buried on purpose, just to keep you spending, then you already understand what this channel is really about. We dig it back up, we hand it back to you, the way it used to be handed across a shop counter, for free. Now I want to hear from you. Which one are you going to try first? The soft, low compression Supersoft? Or are you going to go hunting for those X-out blemished balls your grandfather knew about? Tell me your driver swing speed if you know it, and tell me the ball you've been playing, and I'll tell you if you've been feeding the woods. Leave it in the comments right now, because I read them and I answer. And if you want the rest of what's been buried, subscribe and stand with the people quietly recovering the practical knowledge the convenience economy erased. Next time, I'm pulling the thread on golf clubs, and I found something about the shaft and the driver you already own that fixes a slice for free, no new purchase required, It traces back to a fitting secret from the 1970s that most golfers have never heard. You won't want to miss where that trail leads. If you're still with me here at the end, I've got more for you. Inside the Old Way Circle, I take it further, picking up right where we just stopped. Got a question? You ask me directly, a real person answers. Me, myself. Not a machine. You won't be doing this alone. Point your phone's camera at the code on screen. Cancel anytime with one click. I'd love to see you in there.